Motherhood, but not quite as we imagine. Thought-provoking, refreshing, straightforward, sometimes taboo, often seemingly ordinary, but always honest. Welcome to School for Mothers, opening conversations we all need to have, exploring ways in which you can be fulfilled as a woman, once a mother. Now, here is your host, mother of 10, Danusha Melina Durban.
Listeners, I've been recording this show for fucking months, years. So many people have been on this show, from big names to people you'd never heard of, but that move people, that listen to tears. It's honestly such a profound, I don't know, what's the word, privilege, gift. I lucked out when I decided to do this. It was so great. And it's not over. I mean, I'm sounding like it's over, aren't I? But it's not. There's more. We've got a few things coming. I cannot wait to tell you what I am creating coming later in this year that is going to take this work that I've been doing for quite some time now to another level. But before I do, I've got a few other things in the pipeline, as in guests. I've got a whole queue of them, and I want to make sure that they come to you. But first, today, I wanted to share with you an interview that went out on Father's Day, so June the 19th, in a Metro, which is a fantastic media outlet. That's probably not quite the way to put it, but anyway, in the UK. And it's an interview about how to be a happier dad. And there's actually been a couple of things in Twitter, etc., that had a tiny bit of a tweak of the words, about fathers and the father-centered culture. And I wanted to make sure that you heard what I'd actually said. So for instance, there's a couple of comments about, Danusha wants men to stop, creating the father-stunter culture. Well, men don't create that. It's not fathers that are creating it. It's not something that men decide to create for themselves. No, they're actually receiving the impact of the father-stunter culture. And so actually that's a little more accurate. And that's a very big thing, because otherwise we're actually saying that men are the initiators of this, and they're not necessarily at all. They're part of it, as we all are. And I think that's one of the things that I say in Spunk, my new book. So anyway, here we go. I'm going to share with you what's in this interview. And it was by Susie Walker, who's the ex-editor of Psychologies magazine. She's a fantastic journalist. Really have a lot of time for Susie. Go and follow her work wherever you can find it. So here I'm going to read it to you. So Danusha Melina's can't even say my own name, listeners. Danusha Melina Durban's new book, Spunk, a manifesto modernising fatherhood, is out now and causing a stir. I don't know if it's causing a stir, but hey. Thought-provoking and combative, Danusha offers a pragmatic problem-solving roadmap for the kind of modern fatherhood Danusha believes will secure better futures for our children. We need fathers more than ever before, she says, but not the ones we currently have. Danusha is a thought leader, author, speaker and mother of 10. Her motherhood story began when she was a teenager who made it to be tenured organisational behaviour and development academic, and then onto award-winning, internationally published leadership expert. She traded academia to head her own global firm, fixing corporate boardrooms and developing top talent. In her first book, Noise, a manifesto modernising motherhood, she challenged conventional thinking about motherhood and how mothers should behave once they become parents. Now, Danusha now hosts two critically acclaimed, top-rated podcasts, School for Mothers and School for Fathers, where she talks to modern parents about challenging societal narratives about what it means to be a parent. In a Father's Day edition of the Big Happiness Interview, metro.co.uk talks to Danusha about fatherhood and how to be a happier dad. That's a tall order, eh? I mean, it's a big one. Happy Father's Day. How can we celebrate our fathers today? Here's what I said. Let's celebrate the majority of men who are deeply committed to the families they have. It's a wonderful thing. As a woman, why did you start School for Fathers podcast? I'd been hosting School for Mothers, and it had been a huge success. It was inspiring to talk to mothers talking honestly about their challenges. Even though there were a ton of excellent podcasts for fathers hosted by men, I realized it's super rare for a woman host to talk to men about fatherhood. After a year of interviews with mothers, often complaining about the current way the parenting system was set up, where men were not held accountable and therefore invisible, I had some assumptions about fathers. As an academic, I wanted to test those assumptions. It's good, yeah? I think it's quite easy to have fixed ideas of what the other feels or thinks. We might demonize the other being men, the other being fathers, yeah? But I believe if we really want change in the world, we need to talk to each other and really hear and understand. So I started the podcast School for Fathers. What did you learn? Well, the first thing I learned was how difficult it was for fathers to express emotions sitting beside their own gender. They talked to me about constricting versions of masculinity, fatherhood, and work, and the price of trying to live up to these. I spent hundreds of hours hearing men's choked voices tell me about the sadness at leaving their children, the effects of witnessing motherhood's toll on women they love, plus men just not having anywhere to express their vulnerability and/or trying to learn ways to undo years of emotional paralysis and numbness, succumbing to and beating addictions, and dealing with their own father wounds. There's been a lot of talk about toxic masculinity. What impact does this have? I dropped my H there. My mother would be appalled. What impact does this have on how we bring up our children? Well, research shows that there are 3 components of toxic masculinity. Number 1, toughness. The idea that men should be physically strong, emotionally cool, and act aggressive. 2, anti-femininity. Reject anything that's considered to be feminine, such as showing emotion or accepting help. Number 3, power. The assumption that men must work towards obtaining power and status, social and financial, to gain the respect of others. Is it any wonder that it's said that masculinity is a hard, small cage, and we put boys inside this cage? These same boys become grown men, at which point that rigid, small cage becomes what many call the man box, a construction of restrictive mainstream ideas on what it means to man up or be a real man. It's emotionally debilitating. We're a mother to 10 children, 6 who are boys. How do you combat the man box? Well, in pragmatic ways. In our house, we have lots of blankets around our house, and I've taught my sons and daughters about self-soothing. For them to acknowledge I really need to take some time out. They don't need to be robustly heroic. That it's okay, more than okay, to take care of themselves emotionally. It's all about normalizing feeling vulnerable. I also encourage critical thinking with my children. I have 9-year-old triplets, 2 boys and 1 girl, and so the comparison is very intense because they are the same age. So I get them to question any dialogue about gender-based biases. When someone says to my daughter, "Be careful when you're in the playground," but the boys are encouraged to take risks, we discuss and unpick it, and I get them to question it for themselves. "But she's always throwing herself off the top of the slide," the boys say. When we go shopping for clothes, and the shorts on offer for my daughter are very revealing, she says to them, "Would you wear these?" And the boys answer, "Why would we wear something we can't move in?" At 9, it's so natural for them that they are the ones leading these conversations, not me. It really isn't me. You write about the father stunter culture in your book. What's that? Well, father stunters are those people who assume men babysit their children, their own children, and congratulate them for their daddy daycare sessions. They're the mothers who helpfully assume fathers cannot cope, helpfully and in little things, yes? Cannot cope and swoop in to do the job of caring for their child properly. Father stunters count fathers as one of the kids because you're a man, and what would you know? Fathers are workplace managers jumping to conclusions about a father's commitment to their family and mental health as less than to their career. Father stunting is everywhere, in the media, within headlines, in drama scripts, the way adverts are structured, social policies that make it impossible for men to take paternity leave, laws designed to show that breadwinning is a father's most significant contribution. The list, honestly, is endless. How can fathers be empowered to change that culture? Well, from research I conducted with 1,300 plus men, fathers, they unanimously say that their children are the centre of their world. But from this data, the part they enjoy most overall about fatherhood is watching and helping. Much of societal views about fathers centre on them watching proudly while someone else is the primary parent. Is it time to disrupt this thinking? What does a truly engaged father look like? If you're a dad reading this today, ask yourself, if you spent some time backtracking through your latest activities as a father, how much was spent watching and helping, and how much was spent doing and leading? What might a truly engaged father do differently? I'm not just talking about changing nappies or school drop-off. Go deeper. What about taking the lead on the emotional or relationship education? Now, domestically, stop being an assistant in the home. Stop asking, how can I help? And start being proactive. Take the lead and become a domestic partner, if you're not already. Take responsibility for the nuts and bolts of emotional, mental, and practical load of sustained care of parenting. Now, how do we teach our children to be safe and protect themselves? Well, in my family, we talk about healthy ways to armor up. Like if somebody is rude to us or we feel hurt by somebody, or if a child threatens another physically. For the boys, how do they protect themselves without resorting to stereotypical ways to be enough of a boy? Arming ourselves with a strong sense of ourselves is ultimately what we want, and this develops as we're growing up. Being self-possessed is something we learn as we understand what we believe in. So talking with my children about appropriate ways to protect themselves is really about asking them to consider differing viewpoints and why their peers might see things that way and behave accordingly, like differently than my children. Plus, as much as teaching them to go to caregivers, teachers, police, etc. for safety, they also need to know that these people might hold boys with fixed views, like boys don't cry, and send them away without providing help. It's sad, but it's true. I think it's important we deliberately talk about what our children are feeling. Mostly it's assumed that boys are just angry. It's far more nuanced. There's sadness, frustration, hurt, pride, shame. We need to teach our children how to be emotionally literate and be able to acknowledge and actively encourage discussion about how they're feeling. I talked to many fathers on the School for Fathers podcast and understood that many had been addicted to alcohol, drugs, work, etc. because of their disconnection from their own emotions. How can men give themselves permission to feel deep sadness, abandonment, loss? The first step is being able to acknowledge those emotions and be able to talk about them. Now, how can women and mothers help? Well, women and mothers have got enough on our plates without trying to solve this one. I actually believe that if this is to change, if fathers to have a wholehearted life with their partners and children, men themselves need to create the conditions to be able to do that with other men. It's showing the willingness to do the work on themselves, which is crucial. It's unpicking the gendered, patriarchal parenting patterns that are affecting their children and themselves. Many, many men are sick of the way that fathers are portrayed, how they are seen as the secondary parent, seen as not as equal standing as their mother, how they're ignored, for instance, in school meetings. That's just a tiny example. The truth is we need fathers more than ever. And yes, we need to create allyship with men as fathers to secure a better future for modern fathers. So there's this little box as well where it says in the Metro piece how dads can claim equality in the home. And I'll just read that to you, because this actually is a really crucial part of being a happier father, rejecting toxic masculinity and a better future for our children. So, how dads can claim equality in the home. The domestic sphere is not a woman's sphere, so disrupt the notion that this is women's work and focus on developing the skills that make male and female equal in the home. Stop asking your partner, how can I help? And start being proactive. Look about. See what he's doing. These jobs can be done by anybody, and do them. The impact of not being responsible or not claiming responsibility for aspects of daily domestic life is part of the father stunter culture, where fathers are seen as infantile and incapable. Make the switch from assistant to domestic partner. Make a list of all the mundane caring activities that you can take responsibility for. For example, planning or purchasing food or children's meals, washing, drying, ironing, putting away clothes for your children, arranging medical, dental and other appointments, personal care, head lice, haircuts, cutting nails. Yes, all of those things. All goes into raising those children. Find other men and fathers who want to grow and expand their emotional literacy. Find them. They're out there. They really are. And work on building robust mental health. Join together with other men. In the back of Spunk, my book, there's a whole list of wonderful groups, loads of networks of men who are doing exactly this work to make this world a better place for them as men and fathers and for their kids. Because this matters. It really does. I hope if one of you listens to this, if one man listens to this, or one woman that forwards this to the man she loves, or a man forwards it to the man he loves. I don't care where it's forwarded. Just forward it. Share this out there, would you? Because we have to have a better future than the father stunting culture that keeps men back. Come on now. We need you. We need fathers now more than ever. We really do. Loads of love to you. I'll be back. Speak soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the School for Mothers podcast. To continue the conversation and keep your dose of inspiration up, head over to schoolformothers.com/podcast, where you'll find bonus content from Danusha and her guests on habits, recommendations, books, best apps, time-saving secrets, life hacks, health, sleep and anything in between. That's schoolformothers.com/podcast.